So much of the work on the microbiome has been about the gut. People forget about at least 6 other places. What about the groin and the armpit and the mouth and ears?
The vaginal microbiome is really interesting. It varies. It does a huge amount of variation there. It seems to flip between lots of different states for reasons that are still unclear and that possibly have health implications.
So it's not stable necessarily?
No, it's very, very dynamic. The same is true for many of our other body parts. The nasal microbiome is of interest to people who are looking for new antibiotics because unlike, say, the mouth or the gut, it is not an ecosystem that is washed by nutrients a lot because we don't shove food up our noses. Most of us don't. So it is resource poor, and so the idea is that the organisms that live there will have been forced to evolve better ways of competing with their peers for the precious few nutrients that are there. And so by looking at, say, the nasal microbiome or other similar habitats, we might be better able to find the next generation of drugs.
So you're actually making ecological predictions about what the microbiome should be like in different spots.
Yep, absolutely. And we're seeing that sort of work across the board. The mouth microbiome, the oral microbiome, is, I think, very interesting because it's had a lot of historical significance. So Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the person who first saw microbes with his own eyes, was also the first person to look at the human microbiome, and he did that by scraping bits of dental plaque from between his teeth. So mouth microbes are the first microbes that anyone saw from the human body. Dentistry, the field of dentistry, has had a huge influence on seeing the human body through an ecological lens. The first metagenomic studies of the human microbiome that looked at who is there based on their DNA, based on their genes, was done on the mouth as well by David Relman's group. So the mouth has been a sort of pioneering ecosystem for the human microbiome throughout
Most
history.
people don't know. I mean, I didn't know about it, and I spent a month preparing for a lecture for the British Periodontal Society a few months ago, and it was fascinating to try to ask the question about whether periodontitis is caused directly by pathogens causing inflammation, or whether it's the inflammation or the pathogens directly. And it looks like it's about equal parts of both and different in different people. So again, what you were saying before about the complexity really is highlighted here.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no simple thing like getting rid of the bad bacteria. It's much more complicated and interesting.
Very much so. And and just in terms of if you think ecologically, in the mouth there are so many different habitats. So the microbes on a single tooth above the gum line could be different from those below the gum line. So I talk about the mouth microbiome. Actually, there are dozens of habitats in just this one space, each with their own communities. And I think that we'll see again and again that the mouth becomes this pioneering place. I'm not sure why that is, but I wrote up a recent study which looked at the spatial structure of the microbiome in the mouth and how these communities organize in 3 dimensions in these very particular and interesting ways. That's another thing that we don't really look into.
Biofilms on our teeth, among other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that spatial look at the microbiome, they can change so much in micrometers. We still aren't really good at that either yet. So there's a lot to play for in this field.
Wonderful.